crunch, bring it back, single leg swing. Let me teach you how to wrestle. Okay. Let me teach you how to wrestle.
Bo Bassett, welcome back to the show, brother. How's it going?
It's going great. I appreciate you having me on, and I love coming on here. Just appreciate everything you do for wrestling.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you too. A great ambassador for the sport and really preaching, same thing, spirit, mind, and body. We both have our spiritual shirts on. We're talking about God. Most important thing.
That's right. Always is, and last couple of years, that's been the center of my life. So I think, I don't know, it just has blessed me in a lot of different ways, and yeah, I mean, it's amazing how it's grown in the wrestling community. You've been, seeing that, and a lot of my role models have set the path for us, so it's great.
Yeah, we are very blessed to be in a sport where people talk more openly about the faith, and it's not like the hammer's not dropping down on them like other sports a lot of times, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're open about it, and I think that the people receive it in a good way, so you're 100% right with that. It's great for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, you do a great job talking about the faith. Penn State, you see a lot of people from all across the country. I've seen people from Iowa, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, all over the place.
Yeah.
So we want to keep that going for sure.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah, so multiple time Super 32 champ. How many times is this now?
Yeah, so it's the third high school, which that puts me up there, I think, in maybe like a top 10. It's just like 10 people group, I think, that have done it all time. Maybe less than that, actually. And no one's won 4, so that's like a pretty big goal for me going into next year, and I'm already thinking about it now. But yeah, so that was good. I think ultimately it came down to I was wrestling free, having fun, and just going out there to have fun and score points. For me, I don't try to put any pressure on myself. Super 32's, and we don't like to make it the biggest event of the year, but if you look at it, it's probably the biggest folk style event of the year. That or Ironman or your state title. So for me, it's like, that's one that you really want to have your best performance at. So that's what I kept focusing on: performance, scoring points, and having fun. But yeah, it's been a great summer. So really, just coming off a huge training camp, because World Team Trials is I think it's in May leading into June, so it's right on the border there, the months. And after that, I was locked in for the Pan Am. So Pan Am's happened in July, right into Worlds there at the end of August into September, and then 2 weeks later it's who's number one, and that's a flip of styles. So that was one of those things I had to be right back in the room getting after it. Not really any break after Worlds. And then after that we go into Super 32, and yeah, I mean that's 4 really big events for me. But stayed locked in the whole time. I think I kept a really good mindset about it. The next thing, and I had a lot of fun. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of good developing. Now for me, it's just about keep trying to get better, and just keep growing in my faith as a person and the sport as well. So.
Yeah, talk about your finals match. I mean, that was awesome to watch. Really, really exciting. A lot of great wrestling, high-level wrestling, and just really, really constant action. I think that's the big thing people have seen. I mean, talk about your opponent and everything going into that, the hype going into it, and how you keep a good mindset the whole time.
Yeah, well, that honestly was probably the most hyped up match I've ever wrestled in my life. It was, for sure. It was at who's number one, and then that only made it, more exciting, and people get more involved for Super 32 if we both showed up. And then when we both showed up, people were posting about it. So it's one of those things, again, people make it a really big deal online. They do. And it is a big deal. Of course I want to win that match, but that's not the end goal, right? That's just kind of,
stepping stone
I want to be at and a goal that I want to meet along the way. So for me, it was like, yeah, I'm going to get excited for it, but not make it more than it is. And he's a great opponent. I have a lot of respect for him as a wrestler and his whole staff, the guys that he has out there with Coach Cormier, DC, and the whole staff that they have at Gilroy and just the Wrestling Academy out there. They're really high-level people. So I knew that they were going to come back, wrestling 3 weeks before, and have a good game plan. And they did. And it was a great match. I think we both, set our paces really high. The crowd was into it. So that was really fun to wrestle in an atmosphere like that. It was kind of an even crowd, too. And it was fun to wrestle in an atmosphere where people get excited for good wrestling. And we didn't just want to win 2-1 or go out there and kind of stall and just, explode once or twice a period. We sprinted from the beginning. And that's what I try to do in every match. But he really set the tone, too, that he was going to do that. So, those are the most exciting matches. And I enjoy those the most. And, I have a lot of respect for him. And it was a fun finals match. And I can remember going into overtime. It's 7-7, I think. So a lot of points, high-level points, like really hard scores. So, like, you're a little bit tired. But in my mind, I'm like, man, I trained for this. This is why I train so hard. And one thing my dad always tells us is we don't lose overtime. Can't lose overtime, right? We train so hard that it's like, man, when you're in overtime, it's like that flip of the switch. Like, hey, I don't lose overtime. So I'm right on the line, and I'm thinking to myself, go get one. And at that point, you got to do what you got to do to get the takedown. But my mindset never really shifted. It was it was be confident and go get one. We trained so hard. We can't lose in overtime. So that was my mindset going into that. And I think overall, again, I was out there. We're growing the sport. We're having fun. The crowd's into it. That's why you wrestle. So for me, there wasn't too much pressure. I win that match, I'll be back at practice Monday. And if I lose that match, I'll be back at practice Monday. So nothing changes there. Nothing changes with my faith. So yeah, ultimately I got to wrestle free. And that's an experience that I wish everyone could experience that.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. And then also knowing that going in, so overtime you have to dig down deep. So telling yourself, like, normally we don't focus on winning, but sometimes it is important to tell yourself that when you have to dig down deep and you're tired. So that makes perfect sense. Now talk about that a little bit, because he's in on your leg there, and you had to start rolling through and everything. And you hear the crowd get real loud. I mean, a guy gets in on your leg, the place is going to be going nuts, and the thoughts could be creeping in. What's going on in your mind at that point?
Well, going into the overtime, it was confidence, go get one. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna go get to his legs or snap, whatever it was, but I'm gonna do the attacking. And I did. I had a couple good attacks. Just he's a really good wrestler, right? So he was able to defend them, or like I would get there and he would just get out, or whatever it was. But I was kind of the one pushing the pace there, and then I mean he was returning the attacks too. So I can say that we both were pushing the pace. But he found a way into the leg. So I think a lot of respect there. But once he got it on the leg, I'm like, hey, you got to make something happen. You've been in this position a lot, so I trusted my training. But that's probably not the ideal situation you want to be in. 7-7, 20 seconds left in overtime, right? You'd rather be on his legs. So for me, it was like, hey, I scramble a lot. I have a lot of confidence in my scrambling, and we don't do that training to lose. So I'm like, hey, we got to go get this one. And yeah, I have pretty good techniques there from head in the middle defense and just leg defense overall. So I trusted in those. We're right in his corner, so it's real loud. Like all of his guys are right there. His coach. I heard DC, he was yelling, get this, finish fast. And one of those things, I had to find his ankles or his hips. And I think I was able to find both and come up through and a couple little tactics and skills that I had there in the scrambling that was able to get it done. But one of those things, I got fired up. It's exciting to wrestle a guy like that and on a stage like that. So it was a really exciting match. And yeah, just got to go get one when you got to dig deep. And I think that's why you train so hard, not only physically, but you got to train for that mentally too, because it's really different. Start of the match, it's one of those things. You're free, there's not too much pressure on your mind. But late in the match, there's pressure on your body, there's pressure on your mind. You got to find a way through that stuff. So that was a great test for me, and I have a long career ahead of me. But I think that that match is really going to help me in the long run.
Absolutely. You hit on a good important point there about when you know your opponent's coaches, a lot of times. Obviously, DC is a great wrestler, a great UFC fighter, right? And then you think about college, competing against people that you've looked up to, right? Now they're yelling in your ear. And I mean, Spencer Lee even spoke about that more recently, saying he didn't want to hear Terry Brands coaching against him, right? So like that was his reason for going to Iowa. So like it's in people's minds. Talk about how you deal with that.
Yeah. Well, not only do you have to wrestle against guys that are going to be coached by people you look up to. Eventually, too, you're going to have to wrestle guys that you looked up to when you were young. And it's crazy. I've already had to do some of that, wrestling Division I national champions or Division I national finalists, All-Americans, and guys that I truly did look up to. I still look up to them. It's not like, I'm going to compete against you. So it's a different mindset. Like, you want what I want, so it's one of those things. You got to go kind of take it. But I always looked up to people, and I'm still learning from guys. You got to learn from everyone. I think it's one of those things. You guys talk about white belt mentality, and for me, that's huge. Learning from guys at my level, way higher than my level, or even below my level. And I think it's good to learn from everyone. But it's one of those things, you got to get ready for that. I wasn't really ready to wrap my mind around that until this year when it happened. And I'm at the last chance qualifier wrestling a Division I national champion, wrestling guys from Penn State, Ohio State, stuff like that at college opens. Like it's one of those things. You're like, oh, I'm in the same bracket as this guy, and last week I'm watching him, trying to learn his sweep single or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a pretty cool experience to be able to flip your mind. Like, all right, now let's go take him out. I don't know. It's challenging. I love that though. I love that side of it. Just chasing challenges, trying to make yourself better. But the coaching thing is really real as well, because I think that's where you'll experience it the most. When you wrestle a guy from this college, you're going to have to go against the coaches too. So it's a pretty cool thing. And as I get older, I'm going to experience it more. But I feel like nothing changes. You can't allow that to affect you too much. You got to be aware of it. But I think ultimately it just makes it more fun, interesting, and you got to get more excited for those ones. And in my opinion.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Another thing you said before about one of the toughest tournaments, right? So for a high school kid, and you've been to all these tournaments, other than like, going to like a senior level, what would you say are the top five toughest tournaments or the top five tournaments that a high school wrestler should be really looking to peak for? I mean, of course, like maybe even the state tournament. Well, I mean, Pennsylvania obviously is Diesel, but there's other state tournaments that aren't quite as big, but still it's your state tournament. So you still have that sentimental feeling of importance, right? That counts on your record, whatever, that means. So what would you say top five tournaments you would say to peak for a high school wrestler?
Yeah, so we go to the big three for folks now. We have three big ones for us that are on the East Coast that we're able to get to, that the whole country goes to. So the first one's Super 32. I think that's number one. I would say that's number one. Super 32 is you get everyone. You get like 15 of the top 20 in each weight ranked in the country. It's insane. So I would say Super 32 is huge. If you can get there, get there. There's ways to qualify. The next one, your team's got to be in it. So it's one of those things, you got to be around the right teams and get the right opportunities, but that's Ironman. And that one's on December 5th. So that's like kind of the next one I'm peaking for. But that we put a lot of stock into that one because those brackets are loaded. And, all these NCAA champions, chances are a lot of them wrestled at the Ironman, the Super 32. And then I think third, is the Pennsylvania State Tournament for us. And I think all state tournaments are great. Some are better than others, but Pennsylvania, you got to be ready to go. You got to be ready at the qualifications for that. You got to be ready at all those tournaments because guys in PA are ready to wrestle, and they have a lot of really good, I think, just resources around them. And PA is wrestling. I truly believe that. You go to PA, and that's just what people do. They love to wrestle, and it's awesome. I'm really fortunate and blessed to be where I'm at. So those are the three folk style ones for me. Growing up, for the little guys too, we always went to Vac Duels, Grand River Rumble. Even just the Tyrant events are huge. Those type of things, get matches, were always big. So we always did those to get matches when I was younger. But back to the top five. So if I had to put two more in there, I will include freestyle in this. I would say Fargo's huge. You got to get to that one. And then the U.S. Open's big too for the guys that are trying to make world teams. But that's going to get you noticed. That's going to get you on that stage, right, competing against the best guys. And then the thing that we always thought about was if you make the world team, then you might not go to Fargo. But if you don't make the world team, then next best thing is Fargo, and you go win that Fargo title. And obviously that's a huge deal. And we have a lot of guys that go down there and do really well every year. So that's the five for me. I would say Ironman, Super 32, state tournament, U.S. Open, qualifying for world teams or whatever your world team trial is, and Fargo are the big five for me. And that's where you're gonna get the most looks. And those are flooded with college coaches and I think just really high level wrestlers, coaches, and fans. So.
And now, what's the mentality then not even just the mentality, but also the physical plan for weight and being in shape? Is the mentality, hey, I'm going to be in tip-top shape all year round and be at fighting weight or within striking distance of fighting weight? Is Super 32 more of a weight-cutting tournament? How do you look at it from your perspective?
I heard Kekheisen say from UNI, and then Doug Schwab actually quoted him, but it was like, if the Nationals were tomorrow, I'd be ready. And I really love that. I think that at any point, I feel like I'm ready to go. Maybe I'm not fully peaked, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go wrestle as hard as I can and have the best performance I can. But those are the five we peak for, I would say. As far as being in tip-top shape, we stay in shape year-round. That's 100%. We train really hard, and I think that's huge for my team and my guys here in PA. We train extremely hard. I think we train harder than anyone else, and we truly believe that, so it gives us confidence. And so you can't just believe that. You got to do it. You got to put the work in. And so we do that. I think one thing, though, as you're getting older, it's you're growing too, right? So you want to maximize that. And it's one of those things you never really get a break if you do all five of those all year. But one thing I did when I was at 113, I jumped to 138, 145 in a summer, right? And so I took Fargo off, and I took the summer kind of completely off there because I wanted to develop size, but develop in my wrestling as well. That was a huge summer for me. So I think if you're looking to develop and get bigger as well, I think you got to miss one of the five big ones there and get as big as you can. And I think also, too, that allows you to have fun and just focus on the wrestling. And I think that's one of the biggest summers that I've grown the most in my wrestling ever. I think my biggest jump of all time was this summer for sure. I think I'm wrestling really well, and I think that this past year I've been able to, add attacks and evolve as much as I can. But one of those things, you got to stay in shape, and I feel like I'm ready. In my mind, I'm confident enough that I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go perform any given day. But it's one of those things. It's based on where you're at in your timeline and what your true main goal is. I think these are all just little goals on the path to that ultimate big one. And they're all super important though. They're huge.
Oh yeah. Is there anything in particular you feel like you've grown on over the summer this year?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is size. I think now like I'm starting to get bigger and kind of come into my body to where I'll be at, for the long run. Because I think I'm getting towards the end there. But for me, I think it was that. I think it was in my mind, in my faith. I know these aren't wrestling things, but they're just as important, if not more important than the wrestling ultimately. 100%. But my faith, I've grown in that a ton, right? My mindset, just being able to wrestle free, confident. Uh, I used to get nervous, and it's not like I don't get nervous now, but it's a different type of nervous. Like I'm able to use it, and I can't really explain the feeling because a lot of guys like they'll get so nervous they don't even wrestle nowhere near what they wrestle in practice. And I never really struggled with that, but now I'm totally free, totally free. Like don't even really experience that at all. I feel free because of my faith, but because of my confidence in my faith too. And the work that I put in, I feel like I'm rowing the boat absolutely as hard as I can. So for me, it's like wherever God steers it, that's where I'll be at. So I think that's where I grew a lot this summer. I grew a lot because I got to see where I was at too on the senior level, and see that, man, you're not that far, and 2028 is a big deal. And for me, that's what I'm chasing. Really excited for the next cycle, and I'll do all the senior level stuff. Will I win this year? Maybe. I'm confident enough to be like, yeah, let's do it. Maybe not. Maybe it takes you till 2027, 28, maybe the next cycle. Whatever it is, I know I'm going to relentlessly in pursuit of that. So for me, it's keep chasing that stuff, and just keep growing as I can in my wrestling, adding attacks, evolving. I think it's just being able to be comfortable in every position. You can't ever perfect wrestling, so you're just on the path to try to do that.
Right. Hey, do you ever feel like when there's certain people you practice with, whether it be a club or anywhere, where the time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset? Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session today. They feel significantly different in matches, whether it be better or worse. We're not a matter of like naming names, but do you ever feel like there's certain people where they do feel a lot different in practice versus a match?
Absolutely.
And what do you think that is?
Well, because you got practice wrestlers, like dudes that contend in practice. You're like, who's this guy? Or, man, he must have got a lot better. And then he goes wrestles at Super 32 or whatever event it is. And he's like, man, he didn't do great. Like, he's way better in practice. Like, he's the weight above or the weight below. And he's like wrestling with you and maybe you do well and then he doesn't. You're just thinking like, man, that's kind of weird. And then you got the guys who in practice, they're like, I don't know what they're doing sometimes. And then they'll go out and they'll just compete well. So I think it all comes down to how free you are in your mind when you're wrestling. And are you focused on winning and losing, or are you focused on scoring points? And that's what it comes down to. I have amazing partners. Unbelievable. Probably the best. And I think we have guys on both ends of that spectrum, but they're all working to get better at it. And they've all done an amazing job. I think it benefits you more if you're more of a competition wrestler. But I think eventually if you're not wrestling that hard in practice, right, or you're not doing that, it might catch up to you. So it's one of those things. You got to wrestle hard in practice to be able to wrestle hard in matches. And for me, I feel like I'm pretty close. If I had to pick one or the other, I think I wrestle better in matches, to be honest. Just when, it means something, and when, you have to go out there and score some points. I think I wrestle better there. But you got guys both ways. I think, again, it comes down to what you believe in and what you value. And again, you can't ever perfect wrestling. You just got to keep getting better every day. And it's one of those things you got to get as good as you can. So you're working on the stuff like that, not just the wrestling, but being able to have your best performance and be consistent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, do you ever have, I guess a thing that a lot of people don't think about, do you ever have tough days in practice, not just a hard workout, but days where you're, hey, I'm getting beat, I'm not doing well, times where you're even questioning yourself, because a lot of guys are going to look at you, hey, Bo Bassett, he's very positive, he's upbeat, he's got high energy. It's like, maybe this guy doesn't have bad days. Maybe he always wrestles well in practice. Maybe he never gets beat, or he can't remember the last time he got beat. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I can tell you definitely bad days. And I think it's one thing too. You can think about them as bad days because they are bad days, but it's like those maybe are the best days too.
Right.
Because you got to learn from those days, and I think everyone has them. If you don't have them, maybe you're not in the right room. Because I know in my room, it's cutthroat. Like, these guys are killers. So some days, I mean, we got guys that come in from Pittsburgh and all around the area that are ranked in the country, and these guys are studs. So we have a room, not just our guys, but like guys from Pennsylvania that are after the same goals. So they're coming into practice ready to go, ready to win a national title today. So it's one of those things. You're going to have days where you're like, man, like, what am I doing? But those are days you got to learn from it and keep working. And I definitely have those days. No, I definitely I lose a lot in practice, but I think I learn a lot in practice. I score a lot in practice. And I think if you don't do all three of those things, then maybe that's not the room for you. You got to have guys that beat you. You got to have guys that you go back and forth with. It's a grind. And then guys that you kind of beat up on that you can, you work your stuff with. And I have all three of those, more than all three of those. A lot of guys in each of those categories. And, without my room and my coaches, we wouldn't be where we're at. And we have a really good spot where we're at. But I think, there's definitely some days where you get humbled a little bit and then you come back and you work harder. And it's motivating. It's really exciting.
How do you personally pick yourself up? Is it, do you reframe it immediately, or is it like after practice you're down and then you start like kind of talking to yourself a little bit? Is it later on in the day you start reframing things, and what things do you tell yourself?
Yeah. So my dad does a really good job with that. He's my coach. He's been my coach since the beginning. So I would say
So he's watching you. He's watching you every practice.
Yes, he is there every practice. When I go to RTCs and stuff like that, he's not there. But nothing changes. It's just he's not coaching, right? But I'm definitely used to his coaching. And the drives home is normally when we talk about it. And then when you get home, it's over. You're home. You're with your family. So it's over. So we have about a 15-minute drive from practice, which is, I think, perfect. Because a little bit longer than that would be like too much. And then shorter than that, you're not really getting everything. So we'll talk about practice. If it's a good practice, talk about things to work on and things you did well. And even if it's a bad practice, you talk about things you work on and things you did well. But it's never like, if I have a really bad practice, it's never like totally down on yourself. We don't really try to get too high or too low. If I have a great practice, it's like, oh, you did great. This and this. It's like, no, like there's a lot of things to work on. But it goes both ways. So he does an amazing job with that. He's been doing it with me now for 11 years. And now, my brothers, Melvin and Keegan, and he has all three of us. So we'll even go around and after an event, we'll like critique each other to help us get better at it. And I think that that's deeper learning too. But for me, I just never get too high or too low, especially in practice, because you're not trying to win at practice. You're trying to get better. And I think that's a mindset that people try to, it's tough for them to wrap their minds around. They just want to win. And I get it. Everybody wants to. I want to win every time. But sometimes you gotta sacrifice that for getting better and trying to develop. So I think that that's the idea behind it. And my dad does an amazing job for myself and my brothers on that. And he always too, the practices he's not at, he wants to hear about, which I think is a true blessing to me.
Yeah, definitely. And you're blessed to have him and your brothers. And how, so I guess he's going to have to deal with you guys a little bit different because everyone's different temperament. I think of me and my brothers, 3 totally different temperaments. Like maybe we have the same vision and we look at the world the same way. 3 different temperaments, 3 different levels of sensitivity where our dad would have to deal with us all a little bit different. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely different. All 3 of us. And I won't say what they are, but they're definitely different from me and he handles us a different way. But I think for me, I can take criticism pretty well, constructive criticism, learning from things, trying to learn the first time he tells me as best I can. Sometimes you got to tell him more than once, but it's one of those things. If you can learn the first time someone tells you something, I mean, that's ideal. So that's how I've always tried to look at things, and I'm good with that. Other guys I know maybe aren't as good with that, or they need some time to cool off or whatever it is, and I totally get it. So yeah, all 3 of us are different. He's talked about that. He definitely, it's not that he treats us different, but he approaches how he does things differently as far as help us and make us better. The
conversations are going to look a little bit different. The feedback is going to be given in a different way. It's not that it's not a matter of like love or anything like that. It's not even treating them different in terms of like how you're approaching them. Well, the approach is different, but not the love.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's totally it. It's like everybody, he loves everyone the same and he's going to give all that he can to everyone, but it's like how you do it's got to be a little bit different for each guy. I mean, everybody's different. And even though your brothers are different and you've experienced that obviously. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I kind of learn through him. So
absolutely. You think you're going to go into coaching? That's probably still early.
Early
to decide.
I would really like that. I try to help out with the little guys as much as I can. I run clinics and stuff, and I really enjoy it. I'm still super young. I have a lot of different interests, but I think that would be pretty awesome if I could wrestle my whole life, you know, because if I'm going to wrestle, I don't really feel like then I'd be working, you know, if I'm doing something I love. So that's the goal for me, to do something that you love to a point where it's like, man, I never worked a day in my life. So I love wrestling, and if I could stay in it as long as I can, that would be awesome. But my dad gives me a lot of good opportunities to be able to see what it's like now, and I learned so much from him. He built himself up because he wrestled when he was younger, and then he put himself in the best place he could. He coached with Coach Strip Matter at Young Guns, so he was always in that room learning from the Strip Matter bros. And I mean, he's been there since Young Guns was just starting to now. So, you know, he's been coaching a long time, since before I was born. So I get to learn through him, and yeah, I think that's definitely an interest.
Awesome. Did you see Anthony Mastrangelo, our mindset coach, recently? Yep. Did he come? Where did he go? To your club? To the team? Where did he go?
He came to the compound. We do our big intensive training camp the week before Super 32 every year. He comes every year, and it's great. I love it. I enjoy it because it's different every year, and it's like exactly what you need to hear. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And it was one of those things. You got to wrestle free was kind of one of the messages, and yeah, that hit home with me. We had like 50 guys in the room, and he always does an amazing talk. The kids love it. They participate, and it was great. We had really good numbers, but really good participation too. These guys were locked in, and they wanted to learn. So it was awesome. Stuck around after too, talked about faith a lot, and he's really big into that, which I really respected. I didn't know that, but now I do. So it was pretty awesome. And then I saw him at Super 32 as well, and he's great. He's always there to help. He's an awesome person. He knows a whole heck of a lot about that, which was great. So we see him there. He stops in every once in a while at the camps, and yeah, it's good to have a resource like that, you know, at the big events and during training camps.
Oh, absolutely. No, and he's a great guy, very solid in his faith.
Yeah.
I know he takes a week a year that he does a retreat, just focusing on God and prayer. If we're on the phone around noon, he himself, me, my brother, at noon, we pray the Angelus together. So it's good because it reinforces one another. Iron sharpens iron, with mindset, with technique, with the faith, of course. Now, do guys talk about it after? Like, what's the reverb after that? Do people talk about the mindset lesson or anything they got from him?
Yeah, well, we reflect. So we have it's like a big discussion during it, and then after, my dad kind of reinforces everything, the practices after that we learned. But like I'm big on notes, so I'll like put it in my phone, in my notes, and then like I'll have camps from 2022, 2020. So it's pretty cool to go back and see like what I learned then and what I learned now. But yeah, kids talk about it. And we have discussions, and then my dad reinforces it for us. And then, you know, he offers what you guys offer, and it's awesome. A lot of kids, they get on, and I think it just helps everyone. It's great. And the kids buy in, and the kids that do buy in have success, and it's no secret. So it's awesome to see that. It's just really grateful and thankful for you guys coming out.
Awesome. Great. I'm glad to hear it. So where are we at with the college search? Do you have nowhere, like, are we down to a certain number of schools, or can you talk about it? What can you tell us?
Yeah, I can. So it's an awesome experience. I've been waiting a really long time for it. So I'm really trying to enjoy it. And I got November coming up. So that's like a big month for visits. So I think like 4 weekends in a row I'll be on visits, maybe 3. So I'm really excited to see these schools. I've been to a lot of them. Some of them I've never been to, but excited to see, you know, the culture and how these guys, how they live, right? And I'm really excited about that. Face a really big part of that, coaching staff, partners, relationships. So it'll be really interesting to see these places. I think sooner or later we'll be putting out like a top 10, and those will be the schools there, and that'll be it for a while. Then we'll leave the list alone. But a lot of respect for not only the schools that are on the list, but off the list. Amazing people, amazing coaches. There's not one college that contacted me that I don't have the utmost respect for. So it's been a great process, and I don't know, it's just really exciting because you wait for it and you kind of hear about it your whole life, and then you get to experience it, and it's awesome. So Flo did a really awesome documentary on the first day as well, which that was pretty cool, and kind of just covered the whole thing. So that's stuff that you'll be able to go back and watch someday, and it'll be pretty awesome. But it's been great. It's been fun, and I'm blessed to have this, you know, the opportunities.
So the next thing everyone could look forward to is the list of your top, the 10 that are left.
Yes.
With of course, no disrespect to any of the other ones.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. The utmost respect to all those guys. They're amazing. It's really hard, actually. Like, it's really tough.
I believe it.
It's a family decision, too, because my brothers are going to be coming the year after and 2 years after me in those classes. And it's like, well, we'll probably try to stick together. Maybe not. I mean, I could see it not, but I could really see us together. So it's one of those things. They're recruiting the whole family, and it's been really fun. Been a lot of good talks with my fam.
I'd imagine it's extremely hard. I mean, I remember hearing Ashnall talk about this. A lot of guys who are like some of the top recruits in the country, and it's like it was really, really hard because obviously everyone wants you, and it's tough. Like, what do you do? And now with two brothers going in, like you said, it's recruiting the whole family. It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a lot going into it.
Now you don't have to give anything away, but in your head, do you know that top 10 is that more locked? Do you like, are you, in your head mentally, do you say, hey, it's really between these 5 schools, or no, not really?
Yes and no. There's definitely a top 10, I would say, and then from there, it's like a lot of. I think then you have to really dissect things down and see what you value and what teams have, and go to those places. But yeah, I think I'm at a point where I know roughly where I want to be as far as teams go. But not sure. Like, there's no like crazy lead or anything. Like, I'm just really excited to have these opportunities to see these places. And I think again, family is a big part of it.
What do you think are the most important factors that a top recruit like yourself should be looking at? Like, okay, setting themselves up for the Olympics, for like beyond college success, family values of the team. I know it's really all of them. Academics, setting yourself up for career. Like, what does the hierarchy look like? I know for each kid it's going to be a little bit different, but you're in a unique place that a lot of people don't know what that mindset is. How do you even start weighing those decisions? By what criteria?
Yeah, well, I want to wrestle after college, like 100%. So that's my goals, is to wrestle 4 or 5 years in college, right? However long that I'll be there. And then from there, go try to wrestle in the senior circuit and wrestle worlds and Olympic cycles and wrestle as long as I can. And, and then it's life. But for me, it's like, that's really important, right? Wrestling after the college and what what stock they'll be putting into that, and how much, the time they'll be putting into me and effort. And I'm looking at partners, right? Because that's really important. Coaching staff is huge. The people that you have around you, the relationships. I think one big thing that maybe I value that I think most others do, but maybe some don't, is that faith part. Like, I really need that part. I think that's huge, where I can grow in my faith and just become a better person too. Because you want to be a great person. And the best wrestlers normally too are the best people, which I think is great, and that's something I want to get better as too, and just become a better person. Relationships are big. And again, the family part, am I close to my family? Because my family is really, really important to me. And it's one of those things. I have a lot of good teammates that are being recruited too. So it's like, it's tough. You're talking with them and what they're liking and what they're not. So all that stuff really goes into it. I think it's really tough. There's a lot of amazing places.
Do you foresee the McCourt guys going to, like, I guess not all, they're not going to necessarily be all at the same school, but most of them going to the same place, or you think it's just going to scatter? It's hard to,
Yeah, so we have a couple guys in college now, and they're all spread out. It's cool, because you have guys on a lot of different teams, but I think it'd be really cool to be on the same team. So you got it both ways. You want to create like your own kind of legacy, and you're the guy here, or whatever it is, but like, man, it'd be really cool to be on the same team as Forrest or Herring or McMullen or Butler or whatever it is. And these guys are studs, but some are looking at the same schools. Some guys are like in schools that other guys aren't. Some are like really liking the same. So it's been a cool experience, just asking guys what they're feeling, and they're going on different visits, and it's been pretty awesome. But I think I would love to be on the team with the guys that I've grown up with. I think that would be awesome. But right now we got guys all across the country, but none at the same school yet. So,
all right, we shall see.
Yeah. Yes.
Anything else you got for us, Bo, or anything you wanted to leave? Anything that's coming up or anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, no, I think I appreciate you having me on. Love what you guys do for wrestling. I just want to throw out the power of faith in the Lord, because that's really important to me the last couple of years. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I can do to spread that is just use my wrestling platform to make sure that I'm putting that out there. But the power of God is real, and until you really allow Him into your life, you won't be able to see the effects. So I think that it's huge to take a chance, go to a Bible study, or just try to get better in your faith. And it's a pretty awesome experience. And again, not only will you get better there, you're going to get better in all aspects of life. And I can tell you, I've been wrestling free. Things are a lot better as far as, just happiness and just, I don't know, relationships are better with your family. And I think it's a pretty awesome thing when you allow that into your life. And that's the message that I have for you guys. But I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Absolutely. Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be given to you. Not that you're doing it for the temporal success, the natural success.
Right.
You were doing ultimately for the glory of God, but there are natural benefits that trickle down from that because your priorities are in order. You don't have all this extra pressure. You're not like, yeah, wrestling is important, but it doesn't define who you are. So you could wrestle free. You're having fun, and it keeps you out of all the other distractions, immoral behavior that leads a lot, that destroys, wrecks many wrestling careers, whether it be things with girls, substance abuse, staying out late, partying, all these other things. Your head's just screwed on straight. So it's awesome. Thanks, Bo, for being a great model with everything. If you don't have a spiritual strength book already, I got to get you one.
Yeah,
You guys
I do need to get one. I need to get
okay.
Yes, because I saw it somewhere, and I'm like, man, I really need to get one of those. So yeah,
Right.
I appreciate that. And again, I mean, yeah, you're doing things for something that's bigger than you, right? And I talked about it earlier. If I won, God still loves me. If I lose, God still loves me. It's His plan, and yeah, it's one of those things. The problems that you had before you realized your faith aren't so big anymore once you realize that there's a bigger purpose. So,
Well, there you have it, folks. Machine Gun Mindset is powered by the Holy Spirit.
let's go.
All
Right.
All right, Bo. Have a great night. Thanks again for everything.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care.
We'll see ya.